Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the main man, Blake Snell, the Padres ace pitcher that is potentially on the trading block. A couple days ago, Joe Musgrove basically came out and kind of alluded to the fact that the two guys that are most likely on the trading block are Josh Hader and Blake Snell. As we know, we just talked about Josh Hader trade rumors yesterday, so check that out if you haven't. But Blake Snell is a guy that could seriously be traded. And he's probably going to fetch a good amount. If you go look at, trade calculators and stuff, they're going to tell you that he's not worth that much. That is incorrect. That is wrong. Blake Snell will be worth a lot. He's pitching probably the second best he's ever pitched through a stretch before outside of his Cy Young year. I mean, he's been that good this year. He's a top 5 candidate for Cy Young. He has been an absolute monster. I think this. Isaac thinks this. We would rather him not get traded. We think he's a guy you extend and you don't trade. That's our belief because the Padres are probably going to lose some starting pitching in this next offseason anyway. Hindsight, you should have extended him instead of Yu Darvish. I feel like everyone's kind of realized that now, but of course, hindsight's 2020. Nothing you can do about that. So before we get into the potential trade rumors, I just wanted to say we would rather him stay. And I see the point of trading him away. We would rather him stay and be extended. But with that said, there's a very real possibility that he is dealt. And it's going to depend on what the Padres look like. I think Hader is the most likely, and he's the second most likely. And then you have the Makawakas, Seth Lugo, stuff like that, different guys that could be moved. But when it comes to Blake Snell, there's a handful of teams that are potentially there for a trade for him. The biggest one is going to be the Orioles. The Rangers. We already talked about the Rangers being a team that would be going after Josh Hader. A couple other teams, the Braves. The Braves need starting pitching. That's the only team we think that the Padres would probably move him to in the NL just because they're not competing with the Padres. We brought up the Reds kind of talking about it. And we decided, the Reds don't really make that much sense because either way, they're going to still try to compete for a wild card spot, even if they struggle over the next couple weeks because it's not impossible. So if they were going to trade him, Orioles, Braves, Rangers, and then outside shots, the Astros, the Blue Jays, and actually not an outside shot, but the Tampa Bay Rays as well. Return there. I guess it's maybe unlikely just because he already pitched for the Rays, but a potential reunion with the Rays would make sense too. They have a very deep farm full of a bunch of middle infielders, and we know AJ Preller loves his middle infielders. He loves a surplus of them. When you look at the Padres' current roster, they have 5 guys in their lineup that are original shortstops. So maybe there's something there, maybe not, but we're going to kind of do a little bit of some mocks for both the Orioles and the Rangers and kind of talk about just overall what we think he's going to get. But Isaac, before we get into these mocks, what are your overall thoughts on Blake Snell at the deadline, and what do you think about those teams being the potential trade candidates?
Blake Snell's been the best pitcher in baseball since the end of May or middle of May. So I think, you go on baseball trade values and you see his values in 8. I don't think it's an 8. I'd say it's closer to 15 or 20. I know that seems kind of high for a rental, but you're also getting a guy that's been pitching under a 1 ERA over, the past 2 months or so. So he's definitely not an 8. I don't think he garners you one top 10 prospect. I'd say he probably garners you a top 10 prospect and a mid-level prospect, maybe 2. Because who's as good as him that's going to be on the market for pitching? I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Because he's been that dominant and he's consistently been giving 5 or 6 innings of 1-run ball or less. Anyone should do anything to try and get him in your rotation because of course he's on the Padres, so we're not giving him a guaranteed win every time, but he's been a guaranteed win every time just off numbers. And even though we're not giving it to him, someone else could. And I think people should be, teams should be willing to give a good amount to get that guaranteed win in their rotation. And I don't want him gone. It seems like from what I've seen, the Padres are going to be in a buy/sell mode where they're going to sell some impending free agents. Josh Hader, I can imagine they sell. I don't know who they would replace him with, but it seems like they want to sell guys that are going to be gone soon. And they still want to try competing. They still want to try making the playoffs. I don't know if Blake Snell fits that mold. Of course, he's going to be a free agent, but he's been your best pitcher. He's been your best guy. He's your ace right now. He should be a guaranteed win, but of course we give him no run support. So I don't know if he's a for sure thing to be sold. Maybe some other impending free agents. I don't know who we have as impending free agents, but it seems like the Padres don't want to be in a full sell mode. They still want to try competing. They're 7.5 games back right now. The Marlins are on a fat losing streak. The Diamondbacks, they won a big game against the Braves. Not when are we uploading this? Friday. So on Tuesday is when they had a really big game against the Braves. But they have been on a significant downfall. The Marlins, same thing. The Reds, same thing. These are just teams that are kind of falling off at the moment. So, nonetheless, we still have to hope one of the Giants, Diamondbacks, or Phillies has one of those types of downfalls that propel us, if we go on a winning streak, to get into that spot. And for me, hoping that one of those three teams goes on a really big spiral is a big gamble, which is why I'm totally against buying for stars or for whatever AJ Preller wants, which is usually a star. But as far as Blake Snell goes, I don't know how much I want him gone. I mean, if you are going to make a playoff push, if you do want to make the playoffs, how much sense does it make to trade a guy that's almost been a guaranteed win every time if you actually give him run support? But I don't know. To me, it doesn't really feel like the Padres can make a playoff run. I don't have very high hopes, but AJ Preller is not in the same mindset as I am. He doesn't feel like they're very far out. He doesn't feel like there's better teams ahead of him. I think in his mind, and it seems like a lot of teams' minds, they all think one of those three teams mentioned before will go on a spiral, preferably the Diamondbacks, because they're a young team. They haven't had to play this long of a season together. So I could see it happening, but it's a really, really, really big hole that the Padres have dug themselves in, and it's going to be really hard to get out. But the pitcher that gives them the best chance to get out is Blake Snell. So I can't really imagine him going anywhere.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. But if we are looking at teams, and we talked about it, Isaac, the Orioles make the most sense. Far and away, they have the prospect capital. I'm going to go through a few of these guys, and there's a very good chance that I pronounce these names wrong. Obviously, I'm not locked into the Orioles minor league system. Now, if we look at it from afar, we already know how young and talented this team is. They need starting pitching. That's what they're probably going to go after. And they can actually afford to move some of these guys. Blake Snell could also be a guy for them. If they look to trade for someone, they trade for him and extend him. And, they are planning to re-sign him, and that ends up working out. That makes a ton of sense for the Orioles, in my opinion. So they're the number one team here. I think when you're looking at it, you go down their prospect list. The first guy that comes to mind, okay, obviously they're not getting Jackson Holiday. That's very clear. But Colton Cowser, he's basically like a 5-tool outfielder. He already played a little bit in the MLB level this year. He's the 12th ranked prospect in all baseball. I don't think he would be involved in this. I think that would be too rich. But someone that the Padres would obviously call, and that'd probably be the first guy they bring up. But then you kind of start going down the list, and the names that pop out, I think would be a couple of these guys, maybe one of these guys, and then some lower prospects. Jordan Westburg, infielder, Heston Kjerstad, I think that's how you say it. We were very intrigued by him. He's an outfielder. He has a bunch of pop. He's a really good hitter. He's 24. He's already, like, these guys have already played in the MLB. He hasn't played in the MLB. Westburg has played in the MLB. So these are guys that can come in immediately, kind of produce for the Padres. Those are two names. They're pretty high. They're top 50 prospects, but they're up there. Colby Mayo, he's a third baseman, 21 years old. He is 6'5", and we were talking about it. He's obviously not going to play third base for the Padres, right? He's not going to take Manny's spot. However, if he can convert and be a first base guy, he is a 60 power tool. He's a very talented right-handed hitter. So he's someone that's up there as well. Really big, 6'5", 230. Connor Norby, really good there. Joey Ortiz could be a guy, but we don't really think he's that great of a fit for the Padres. But those main guys that I just said, Cowser, pretty unlikely, but Westburg, Kjerstad, Norby, Colby Mayo. Those are the names that pop out to me. And I think that, Colby Mayo's down the list, Norby's down the list, but Westburg, Kjerstad, those guys, like, they're up there too. So maybe it's two of those. I think that's a little bit rich for half a season of a starting pitcher. But those are going to be the name that's going to be involved. And if he goes to the Orioles, one of those guys is likely going to be the headlining piece of some sort of trade. maybe it's just two of them. I think more likely you'd probably see like one and then some other guys in the Orioles systems kind of go after some arms, because we know the Padres farm system needs to replenish their arms. They need guys that can come up and be bullpen pieces and come up and be back end starters. They don't really have anyone right now. So maybe there's some guys down the Orioles system that make sense. But as headlining pieces, Isaac, are those the guys that you're thinking of too?
Of course. I think Kobe Mayo is a really good target. I mean, people are probably gonna say, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what his numbers are, but you go just based off like how much power he has, his size. Like I don't think obviously he can't be a third baseman for the Padres, but I think he could profile well as a first baseman. And I mean, the unfortunate part of that is Ha-Seong Kim wouldn't be a Padre anymore, because you'd probably have to move Jake Cronenworth back to second. And this isn't assuming that like Kobe Mayo would immediately come in and be the starting first baseman. Like he'd probably have to be a platoon for a year or DH or whatever. In the event that Ha-Seong Kim's not a Padre anymore, you would have to move Jake over to second, and hopefully Kobe Mayo would pan out to be a first baseman. I don't want Ha-Seong Kim gone. I think he's been fantastic. But unfortunately, they did sign Jake Cronenworth to some good money and not Ha-Seong Kim. So we don't know how that's going to go. But I'm preparing for that event. Kierstad makes some sense. The way I'm thinking for the Orioles is maybe they don't feel like they have to be all in this year, just because they could be thinking, well, shoot, we're already a really good team. And that's without going all in. Like this wasn't supposed to be our year. But they could also be thinking, well, shoot, let's take advantage of it while we can. What if we're not in the playoffs next year? What if we're not doing this good next year? But I think their mentality could be, we don't have to go all in. We don't have to go get Snell right now, because there's going to be really good pitchers on the market soon, and we can develop some good pitchers. And they have the number one prospect in baseball right now that should be ready by next year. Sounds really young, but his ETA is 2024. That is Jackson Holiday. And they pair him next to Gunnar Henderson. And they have an amazing left side of the infield. So, I mean, I don't know what mode they will be in, but if they do want to buy, Snell's going to be their best target, and we're going to be looking at. I mean, we want a guy that can hit for power. We want a corner guy, preferably a first baseman / DH type that can hit for power. So, and not just now, but for the immediate future. But the Rangers are in a completely different mode, I would say, because Seager isn't getting any younger. Simeon's not getting any younger. Jonah Heim's good this year. Adolis Garcia is good this year. Nathan Eovaldi isn't getting any younger. John Gray not getting any younger. That's a team that's, if they're going to win, they got to do it this year. If not next. They have to do it in the very near future. Jacob deGrom's undergoing Tommy John. They don't have, maybe by the numbers they have an ace, but none of their aces are Blake Snell. Blake Snell's been, I mean, he is probably one of the top candidates for a Cy Young right now. So they make a ton of sense. And I actually think you can probably maybe fleece the Rangers a little bit in terms of what you can get, because they might be that desperate. Because, I mean, they have a great record, but they've been on a skid. They had like a skid where they were like 10-15 over 25. They haven't been as good as they were at one point. So if they can plug in Snell and have that type of guy come in and help them win 10 games extra, because he should be a guaranteed win every time with how he's been pitching lately. But like I said, no run support. I actually think we can get Leiter and, some other, maybe a top 100, back end top 100, but two mid-level prospects, something like that. Maybe more, I don't know. But I definitely think that the Rangers might be a more suitable candidate to trade with, but I'd prefer the Orioles.
And you prefer the Orioles because their farm is stupid stacked, which also is something interesting, because then if you're the Orioles, or I mean, I guess more if you're the Padres and you're looking at potential kind of moves, right? Well, you can run up the price like using the Orioles. That's kind of the point where you'd be like, oh yeah, well, they offered us these two guys, and you don't even need to tell the Rangers the truth, but they're thinking, Astros are on our tail. Maybe the Astros just got someone at the deadline. Oh shoot, this isn't good. We need to get an ace. We need to get someone, and they feel really pressured to do that. So I think the Rangers are interesting, and it's the same guys. We posted a video yesterday on Josh Hader, so it's the same guys that we're going to bring up here: Jack Leiter, Owen White, Brock Porter, is it Acuna's little brother as well? Those are the main guys. We talked about Kumar Rocker. Dude, it's crazy. He's like not 100 top 100 prospect, and he's been pretty good in high A this year. And he's 6'5", 250, and he's a beast. And he was the 3rd overall pick, and he's not a top 100 prospect. That just feels wrong to me, right? Like, I don't think you can just be like, yeah, we'll just get like a middle end prospect in Rocker. Like, no, that dude was just the 3rd overall pick. So he's an intriguing name, of course. And honestly, Isaac, think about this. Think about if he traded Blake Snell, and Rangers fans would probably be like, these guys need to shut the fuck up. This is ridiculous. But what if you traded Blake Snell for Leiter and Rocker? Like, because if you look at it from like what starting pitching goes for, that would be something that would be there. But the name value of that's an insane name value trade. If you have those 3 pitchers involved in a trade, that'd be one of the more wild trades we've seen in a while in terms of like name value and like big names. I don't think that's going to happen. I highly doubt that the Rangers are even trying to trade Rocker, like, because if his value, his perceived value is way different. Why would you trade him? That'd be stupid, right? That'd be really stupid. So I don't think he's really going to become a guy that's available. But the main guys that we talked about yesterday, Owen White, right-hand started pitching. He's in AAA right now. Acuna's little brother, he's a middle infielder. He's pretty small. You talked about him as almost like an Aussie comp, which is funny because, Acuna's teammate, of course. But he's an exciting player. He's another guy named value. The Rangers are going after these big names over here. And then Brock Porter, he's A-ball. He's pretty good. Jack Leiter. So you're probably going to see like one of these guys, 2 of these guys, some lower end prospects here. There's a guy, Cole Wim, that's pretty far down in the Rangers system. He's in AAA right now. Let's see what other Mark Church, he's in AAA right now. Like some of these guys are just pitchers that the Padres need. Like they need guys that can come in and pitch in the bullpen right now. And so I think the Rangers have a lot of those guys that make sense for them, where, like you said, they might be a more suitable trade partner, but the Orioles farm system is just better. So it's very interesting to see how that would go. And I think Blake Snell's a guy that you could end up having like a kind of a showdown for him at the deadline if the Padres are open to moving him, which we said earlier we don't think that's going to be the case. But hey, maybe that is. So I think those are the big names there. But Isaac, if you're looking into the Braves, the Blue Jays don't really have the farm system. The Astros don't really have the top farm system unless the Padres are trying to trade for like a handful of like middle end guys, which that's not really been their forte under AJ Preller. That's not really the type of trades that they go for. They would rather trade for like one guy in the top 100 than like 4 guys outside of it, even if those guys look like they're more valuable. If you just go on like past AJ Preller trades. But the Tampa Bay Rays could be a team. They got a bunch of middle infielders, like we said earlier. Like, so maybe they're there. The Braves, we talked about them yesterday. They have a couple names. I mean, they have Soroka. They have who is it? Was it Schuster? They had a couple guys. Is it Schuster? Vaughn Grissom, of course. We were talking about him potentially. And then the other guy was, who was it? I'm looking him up. Oh my gosh, Smith Shaver. I think he's pitched this year for their team, or he's one of their higher end prospects. So they have a lot of guys that are like the same kind of deal as like their arms that are ready to go. I still think it makes more sense for the Padres to go after an Orioles or Rangers trade, though. But that's what I'm thinking. Anything else? Anyone you're thinking else besides this Blake Snell kind of mock-up?
No, I mean, if they're going in a buy-sell mentality, definitely not the Reds, obviously, but maybe not even the Braves if they're thinking, well, shoot, if we make the playoffs, what if we have to play Blake Snell? So that's a little tougher. Yeah, man. I mean, the Orioles and Rangers, and I doubt the Rays would happen, but if they were interested, of course, the Rays make some sense. But yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty spot on as far as who we're thinking as far as trade partners. Orioles and Rangers being the top 2 for sure. I don't really have anything else. I mean, like I said, we don't really want Blake Snell to go if this is going to be their mentality of a buy-sell trade deadline. But I'm pretty prepared to see what happens. I expect Hader to be gone. I don't know. I'm on the fence with Blake Snell. Juan Soto's not going anywhere.
Hey, but we will talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about what it would be for him. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. So thank you all for listening. Soto video out tomorrow. What he said, it's very unlikely I don't even know. It would have to be like the biggest offer ever, right? It'd have to be something insane. But yeah, I think it's gonna do it. So thank you guys for listening. Let us know your trade mockups. If we didn't mention your team, we didn't talk about you guys potentially going after Blake Snell. Let us know what you think he would cost. Let us know what you think you guys would give up, and if you're an Orioles or a Rangers fans, let us know if you think we're either way off or that's what you're kind of thinking is a good move for your team as well. So let us know, and we'll be back tomorrow. See y'all.